Hey y'all, welcome back to the channel. Tiffany Robinson, aka Coach Tiff. Are you digging this neon sign? From Beyond RCM Revenue Cycle Management here in the state of New York. And I'm so excited to get into today's video. So if you've noticed, last week I put out a video giving a masterclass on the prior authorization process. And I want to build on that in this week's video. Now, something that I personally would like to do each month for the year 2025 is I would like to highlight a career in the RCM space so that individuals who may not be well versed in this area or contemplating getting into healthcare, they have a sense of what these different positions are. And maybe you'll find that a position that I talk about on the channel is something that you might want to research further. Now, if this is your first time checking out the channel, I am Coach Tiff, and I have worked in the healthcare industry for over 25 years, primarily in the administrative and revenue cycle management space. Beyond RCM is a YouTube channel that is geared towards all things healthcare. We talk about healthcare topics in the news. We talk about helping individuals learn certain concepts in healthcare. We talk about taking care of ourselves because healthcare can be a very stressful industry. So the importance of having balance and making sure that we're not spreading ourselves too thin. We touch on all of that in this channel. So if you haven't done so already, please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Now, I talk to a lot of individuals who are entering this field for the first time. And one of the things that can be very frustrating to them is not getting their ideal first position, right? So I meet individuals who go to school for medical coding and they're looking and they're certified and they're looking for their first coding position, but they run into a lot of challenges because they don't have the necessary experience. Same thing with medical billers. You know, they will go to school, get their certification, and then they will find that they hit a wall in the hiring process. And I understand that because I experienced that, and I talk a lot about it in my earlier videos where when I first became certified way back when in 1998, I went on dozens of interviews where I didn't get the job. So I fully understand what it's like for individuals starting out and how difficult and frustrating it can be. Now, speaking for myself, what I had to do to ultimately get my start in the industry is I had to do an internship, largely in part because I was about 7 months pregnant and no one was going to hire me at 7 months pregnant, unfortunately. And I just didn't want to sit around and wait and hope that I got a position. So I decided to waddle my behind to a local hospital and sign up to do an internship. Luckily, I was able to intern. I interned in the OBGYN department, the irony. They probably saw me with the belly and said, let's just stick her there. But ultimately, I was able to intern in the OBGYN department where I was not doing medical billing at all. In fact, I was greeting patients and registering them into the system. But because I did that internship, because I showed up, because of my work ethic, because I did the tasks that were assigned to me well, I got recommended for a position in the business office after I delivered and had my son. And the rest is history. So for me, I started out, using a unconventional path, but eventually it did lead me to the job that I ultimately wanted to land. And 26 years later, thankfully, I am a director of revenue cycle management. I am also a professional coach and mentor. So that internship served me well. And the reason I'm giving this backstory is because many times when individuals start out in this field and they're not getting the job that they desire, they get very frustrated and they feel very defeated. And while everyone may not agree with my advice, I believe that if you are having challenges breaking into the industry, you need to come up with creative ways to get your foot in the door. You need to show up once you get your foot in the door and give 100%. Learn everything you need to learn, build some time on your resume, and then once you've done that, you can then pivot and look for the job that's more aligned with what you want to do. So our monthly coaching career videos are geared to giving you insights on different areas you may want to look at, because you may be watching this video and be someone that's having a hard time landing your first position, or you might be someone that's not very familiar with the world of revenue cycle management, medical billing, medical coding, etc., and you want to learn more. So these career coaching sessions that we're going to put out once a month will help give you greater insight into different professions in RCM. So last week we did a masterclass on the prior authorization process, and I'm going to build upon that in this week's video with my career recommendation. And my career recommendation this month is, hey, what's up? Just stopping by really quick to make a quick ask. We've been reviewing our data analytics, and we've noticed that we have tons of new individuals checking out our channel, which is geared towards all things healthcare. However, many of our viewers are not subscribed to our channel. Subscribing to our channel allows our content to go into the proper algorithms so that we can spread knowledge related to the healthcare industry to all those who are interested or looking for guidance. So can you do me a favor? If you haven't done so already, can you please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell? That allows our information to get into the hands of those who truly need it. Thank you so much for helping us out in this way. Let's continue being great together. Prior Authorization Associate. Now, in last week's video, we did a mini masterclass on the prior authorization process and how to master it. Now, once you've mastered your understanding of the prior authorization process, you can then start looking for positions for a prior authorization associate. A prior authorization associate basically manages the prior authorization process for a medical practice. And every medical practice knows that the prior authorization process can be a very lengthy and sometimes annoying process because the insurance companies do not make it easy for you. So what exactly does a prior authorization associate do? What does a prior authorization associate need to know? Well, a prior authorization associate needs to understand, for example, if they're working in a practice, which services in that medical practice require prior authorization. And it's important to know this because failure to obtain the prior authorization will ultimately result in the practice not being paid for their service. So the prior authorization associate understands the services in the practice that require authorization. They also process the request for the prior authorization. So whether you're submitting the request via a portal, whether you have to fax in the request, whether you call it in, or the prior authorization specialist essentially understands each insurance company's mode of communication to submit a prior authorization request, and they submit that request. They also have an understanding of not only the CPT codes that require authorization, but also the diagnoses that meet medical necessity. Because in order for a service to be approved for authorization, the insurance company wants to make sure that the diagnosis that the patient is being treated for falls under their medical necessity guidelines. So the prior authorization associate must understand which diagnosis codes meet medical necessity and which diagnosis codes do not meet medical necessity. And while most providers tend to have an understanding of these diagnosis codes, remember, medical providers did not go to school to become medical billers and coders. They went to school to take care of patients and help them be well. So you will have to be that extra set of eyes because sometimes the provider may select a diagnosis code that, according to the insurance company, does not meet medical necessity, but there is another code similar in nature that does fall under their medical necessity criteria, and we need to communicate that to the provider. The other thing the prior authorization associate does is after they submit the medical record request, they make sure to follow up on those requests because in many instances, the insurance company will request clinical information. And just a pro tip, if you can, submit your clinical information with the request. And if the plan does not allow you to do so at the time of the request, have it already available so that if they ask, you already have that information to submit to them. You don't want to wait until they ask for it to get it put together from the provider. You want to have that information readily available. So the prior authorization specialist follows up with the insurance company, provides necessary supplemental information, and they ensure that the case is approved in a timely manner, because there are times where insurance companies will drag their feet for whatever reason, staffing issues, who knows? I don't work for the insurance companies, but I have worked on the provider side long enough to know that there are times where you will literally have to follow up with the insurance company and say, hey, I submitted this request like 10 days ago. What's going on? So the prior authorization associate stays on top of prior authorization requests to make sure that the insurance company not only received the request, but that they're processing it in a timely manner. And of course, there are always going to be instances where prior authorization requests are denied. So a prior authorization associate has to understand when a case is denied, what next steps to take. There may be times where that prior auth associate can reinitiate the request themselves, but there may be other times where that prior auth associate might need to initiate or coordinate what is known as a peer-to-peer review between their physician and the insurance company's physician, so that ultimately the services are able to get approved and the patients are able to get the access to care that they need. Now, as a medical biller or a medical coder, this is a great profession to start out with because it allows you to familiarize yourself with ICD-10 and CPT codes. It allows you to understand the criteria for medical necessity from the payer's perspective, and it gives you a great foundation that you can eventually build upon as you grow in your career and take on more challenging roles in the revenue cycle management space. So I think a prior authorization specialist is a great area to look into if you're someone who recently graduated and you are finding that you're having a difficult time breaking into the industry. And as I always recommend, and I said it earlier on in this video, just because you start out in a role such as a prior authorization associate doesn't mean that you need to stay in that role forever. For example, if you have aspirations to be like a risk adjustment coder or a medical biller or a billing manager, this is a great foundation for you to really learn and get experience, but it's equally important for you to know when to transition into your next role, because many times when individuals get their feet in the door, they get very comfortable in their positions and they don't push themselves to move forward. So again, very important. If you get in the door in a position such as a prior authorization associate or maybe another position like a collector or insurance verification specialist, but you have aspirations to be a RCM manager, RCM director, whatever the case may be, use this as your stepping stone, but know when to pivot. And that's pretty much it. Those are basically the fundamentals of a prior authorization associate. I hope that you found this information very useful. If you'd like more information on working as a prior authorization associate, I want you to check out my free masterclass that I put out last week. I'm going to pop a picture of it right here. And if you want to do in-depth coursework in understanding the prior authorization process, I want to encourage you to check out my course, Mastering the Prior Auth Process in a Healthcare Setting, on the Teachable platform. Thank you so much for taking the time to hang out with me today. My name is Tiffany Robinson, aka Coach Tiff, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.